Welcome to another weekly Forex forecast. We start on the DXY on the weekly time frame, and we had a very nice bullish low test candle last week. We are still sitting here on this significant value area to the left, which is the base for this overall range we can see here. This could be a potential momentum shift for a dollar strengthening over the next few weeks. However, when we are looking here on the 4-hour time frame, we are not in a clear momentum run yet. There is still an argument for price to just stay a bit longer in this area, accumulate more volume, forming something like a bear flag continuation in this area, which then would be enough volume to push the dollar further to the downside. We will see a clearer picture as soon as we trade outside this area here. Right now, I'm leaning a bit more towards dollar strengthening after this very significant sell-off the previous few weeks, and I would not be surprised if we see something like that. We see a continuation bull flag pattern in this area, and then would be enough for breaking price above this overall a bit more messy price action here. And then if we see some bullish continuation above this area, then we know we are in for the next bigger move to the upside. Euro US dollar on the weekly time frame is of course more or less the inverse picture. We did tap into this value area here to the left. We were discussing this the last 2 weeks. We were trading between these two highs here, a bit in no man's land, and now finally last week we broke above and broke back in and closed the whole week with the bearish high test candle. So going down to the 1-hour time frame, or better the 4-hour time frame, what are we looking for next week? We are looking for a bearish continuation. We can see here the start of a potential head and shoulder. We have here the left shoulder, the head, and then here potential right shoulder. And we can also see that this area here is starting to mimic the left area here. That would be actually perfect and would give another positive confluence factor for a bearish continuation in this area. So right now I'm looking for price to tap once again into this liquidity area and then showing some form of higher time frame candlestick reversal pattern, and I would enter a short. However, if price breaks below this liquidity area here to the left and then showing some form of bearish continuation below all this bit more messy price action, then I'm happy to enter a short here. That would even be better. This would be more positive confluence factor, would be a nice sequence here for a bearish continuation. Moving on to Australian dollar, US dollar on the weekly time frame, we had this, that's the third bullish week now. We were discussing that a few times. We have here the potential 1, 2, 3, this correction here, and then we had this strong momentum run to the upside, and we are looking now here on the 4-hour time frame for some clear price action. Right now, if the DXY is continuing to sell off, then that would make an argument for Australian dollar, US dollar to continue to the upside. And we can see here this is corrective price action. We see it's losing momentum on top of this high here to the left, but it's definitely not a progressive clean price action. So right now we still have here a potential base for a long continuation, and I'm looking right now for price to finish a clear structure. So I'm leaning more towards a short, and I would like to see for price to break below these two lows here and then forming a lower time frame bearish continuation. I'm happy to enter a short in this area, which is enough room to manage the trade into this potential base for a long, and if price breaks through it, then we have already a very nice entry higher up and are then looking for a scale in below this overall a bit more messy price action. However, if this base holds, then we can see price was just forming a bigger bull flag continuation, and we would then enter along in this area. So these two areas are key. First, I'm looking for a short, then I will see what price is doing in this area here. New Zealand dollar, US dollar on the weekly time frame, we have a bit more, or we tapped into a bit more significant areas than in Australian dollar, US dollar. We are coming from a value area. We still have a gap to the next lower value area, and we are in a very strong bullish momentum run. We have a bit more progression, and we are now looking on the 4-hour time frame for something similar. I'd like to see price to tap into the high, closing the gap, and then followed by a bearish continuation, or then just tickling down into this potential base here for a bigger bull flag continuation, and then see some reaction in this area. So I'm not trading in between. I'd like to see how price is reacting either on the high or on the potential base for a long continuation. Pound US dollar on the daily, on the weekly first. We can see here as well, we left the gap here to the low, and we left the gap here to the high. This is a bit pound behavior. We are still in a bullish high test candle, so there's still an argument for price to close this week, fill the wick and close the gap. Going to the 4-hour time frame, let me clean that up a bit. And what are we looking for next week? I'm looking for price to either close the gap here, tickling back up, breaking out, and then back into the structure, followed by a bear flag continuation for a short entry, or if price is just breaking below, and that would also be it would trade below this small high here to the left, which then here formed the base for a potential long structure. And if we start trading below all this price action, followed by a bearish continuation, happy to take a short in this area. Euro Australian dollar on the weekly time frame, we can see we still have some room to the upside potentially. We still have this wick here to fill. We did not even close the gap to this week, but we are in the third bearish week. But we can see that it struggles. Price struggles to break further down. All 3 weeks were tapping into the same area here. So going down to the 4-hour time frame, we can clearly see here we have an area where price really struggles to break through. We have this liquidity area here, which we were discussing last week for a potential long continuation as well. And we have here a head and shoulder, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and we still failed to break below the neckline. Price is now in a corrective squeeze, tapped below here on the 4-hour, and then we got some nice 4-hour bullish momentum in this area. So I'm right now looking more for price to give me clear directional movement. I'm looking a bit more for at least a medium term long trade back into the top of this range here. And we can see here, this looks more like a bullish continuation right now. I'd like to see for price to finish this continuation, and then I would take a lower time frame, 15 minutes or even 5-minute bull flag continuation outside, or just sitting above this bigger bull flag for a long continuation. Euro New Zealand dollar on the weekly time frame, there was actually a trade last week. I did like this trade a bit more to the downside because we were tapping into this value area to the left. We had basically a wick fill here, and then we started with bearish momentum. We had a very nice follow through last week, and now the third bearish week in a row. Going to the 4-hour time frame, I totally mismanaged this trade. I entered very nicely. I closed the trade here because price did not commit, and after price was here reaching 0.7, I moved my stop to break even and got tagged out. Yeah, I was impatient here, obviously. What am I looking for right now? We then got a bit momentum here. We left the smaller liquidity area here to the left on the 1-hour time frame. We can see it a bit clearer, and we are now forming a potential expanding structure. But we also know expanding structures, especially sitting on the low here, can also be a continuation. So I'd like to see how price is reacting on this high. We already accumulate a bit too much volume here, and if that's a bullish continuation, that might be enough to just move price further to the upside. So the positioning of this volume accumulation is not ideal for a short continuation here. However, also looking at the price action here, this was also not a very clean three-touch structure. That's just how Euro New Zealand dollar is behaving sometimes. Obviously, I need a bit more patience. And yeah, I'm waiting for a clear price action confirmation in this area. Canadian dollar yen on the weekly time frame. We can see we had a bullish low test week. We tapped into the low here. And we are now still looking for the finishing of a potential expanding structure. We were looking for this structure even when price was still in this area here, like a week, 2 weeks before already. We were looking, after this low, basically, we were looking for price to finish the structure. But yeah, price came down one more time, and then we saw some reaction on this low and are now forming an expanding structure. So it would still make sense. You can see we have here a clear 1, 2, and then a potential 3. So what am I looking for right now? For next week, I'm looking for a bullish continuation to finish the move here to the upside, the bigger overall bearish structure, and then entering a short, ideally from a long into a short in this area. New Zealand dollar, Swiss francs on the weekly time frame. We are basically in long territory, right? So we are still in a downtrend, obviously, but it's so overextended that we would not be surprised if price would move further to the upside. We have now 2 bullish weeks in a row. We are still sitting, we closed just slightly below this wick here, this low to the left, and we are just trading now through this area here. So I'm looking for right now on the 1 hour time frame for price to accumulate a bit more volume in this area. We have here a small liquidity area which would align here with this high here to the left. This could be a potential base for a bigger 1, 2, 3 structure. We accumulate a bit more volume here now, and if we form a deliberate 1, 2, 3 structure into this low here, then yeah, I'm happy to enter along with a 4 hour reversal or even a 1 hour reversal in this area, because this would be very deliberate price action for a long continuation. Pound Swiss francs on the weekly time frame, we were tapping into this low, but we have still room to fill this week here to the downside. We now we basically retraced 50% of this move here to the left, so we could go either way. Looking on the 4 hour time frame, we have a bit messy price action here. Pound Swiss francs is very often wicky. We close the gap here. I'm looking for now a clear directional move. On the 1 hour time frame, we can see it a bit clearer. We had here this potential 1, 2, 3 into this high here to the left. We then started to lose momentum. There's no clear directional movement right now in this pair, so this is a potential base. And if we form a deliberate 1, 2, if that's the second low and we form a third, a bullish continuation in this area, that would make sense to enter along. However, if we just break below, better even below this high here to the left, or below this low here to the left, and then price forming some form of bearish continuation, I'm happy to enter a short in this area. And New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar on the weekly time frame is in a bullish momentum run. We are approaching this high here to the left. We have this pair on and off because it respects structure fairly well. Going down to the 4 hour time frame, we are looking for now a clear directional move, or so I'd like to see price to first finish this structure here. We are in an ascending channel approaching the previous high here to the left. We had a very nice impulsive move to the upside, and we then started to lose momentum. So if we finish this move, close the gap basically here, and then see some reaction in this area, I would happily entertain a short. And if price is just breaking outside this ascending channel below the start the base of this channel and then forming some form of bearish continuation, I will definitely enter a short in this area. This is a bit counterintuitive to what we had with the other pairs, because we said New Zealand dollar is kind of the strongest pair at the moment from the commodity currencies. However, Canadian dollar was holding up fairly well the recent few weeks, so this is a bit of a wild card. And if we get clear price action, then yeah, of course, we just trade whatever the market is giving us. So that's the watch list. That's my watch list for next week. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Bye bye.